The hospital corridor was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. It was 2:47 a.m., and most of the world was asleep. But not Camilla. She sat alone in the dimly lit hallway outside room 304, her hands trembling in her lap. Her eyes were red from crying, but no more tears would come. She had cried them all. Inside that room lay her mother, hooked to machines that beeped softly in the darkness. The doctors had said there wasn't much time left. Maybe hours. Maybe less. Camilla had been there for 3 days straight, refusing to leave, refusing to accept what was coming. The guard at the end of the hall noticed her. His name was Marcus, a tall man in his 50s, with kind eyes and a weathered face. He had worked the night shift at St. Catherine's Hospital for nearly 20 years. He had seen everything: grief, fear, desperation. But something about the young woman sitting alone in that corridor made him pause. She looked so small, so broken. Marcus walked slowly toward her, his footsteps echoing softly against the polished floor. He didn't know what he would say, but he felt he should say something. Anything? Before you continue with this story, if you're finding comfort in these moments of human connection, consider subscribing. Stories like this remind us we're never truly alone. Hit that subscribe button and let's continue. Camilla didn't notice him approaching. She was staring at the door to her mother's room, lost somewhere deep inside her own mind. Memories flooded her thoughts. Her mother's laugh, the way she used to sing while cooking breakfast, the warmth of her hugs. All of it was slipping away, and Camilla felt powerless to stop it. Marcus stopped a few feet away from her. He cleared his throat gently. "Miss, are you okay?" Camilla looked up, startled. For a moment, she just stared at him, as if she'd forgotten other people existed. Then she nodded slowly, though her expression said otherwise. "I'm fine," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse from exhaustion. Marcus knew that wasn't true. He had heard those words 1,000 times in this place. People always said they were fine when they were falling apart inside. "You've been here a long time," Marcus said softly. "Have you eaten anything today?" Camilla shook her head. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. Food felt impossible. Everything felt impossible. "There's a vending machine downstairs," Marcus offered. "I can get you something. Water, at least." "No, thank you," Camilla said quietly. "I don't want to leave. I need to be here when she..." She couldn't finish the sentence. The words stuck in her throat like broken glass. Marcus understood. He had stood in hallways like this one too many times. He had watched families wait for the inevitable, refusing to move, refusing to breathe until the end came. He pulled up a chair and sat down beside her. Camilla glanced at him, surprised. "You don't have to stay," she said. "I know," Marcus replied, "but I will." He sat in silence for a long time. The fluorescent lights buzzed above them. A nurse walked by, her shoes squeaking softly on the floor. Somewhere down the hall, a door opened and closed, but neither of them spoke. Then, without warning, Camilla's voice broke the silence. "She doesn't recognize me anymore." The words came out barely above a whisper, but they carried the weight of 1,000 heartbreaks. Marcus turned to look at her. Camilla's eyes were fixed on the floor, but tears were sliding down her cheeks again. "I went in there an hour ago," she continued, her voice shaking. I held her hand. I told her I loved her, and she looked at me like I was a stranger. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. He had heard stories like this before, but they never got easier. "She raised me by herself," Camilla whispered. "She gave up everything for me. She worked 2 jobs so I could go to college. She never complained, never asked for anything in return. And now she doesn't even know who I am." Her voice cracked, and she covered her face with her hands. Marcus didn't know what to say. There were no words that could fix this, no comfort that could make it better. But he stayed beside her anyway, because sometimes presence was all anyone could offer. And then, in the stillness of that cold hospital corridor, something unexpected happened. Camilla's voice began to carry down the hall. Asterisk, asterisk, she wasn't crying anymore. She was singing. The melody was soft at first, almost too quiet to hear, but it grew stronger with each note. It was an old lullaby, the kind mothers sing to their children before bed. The words floated through the empty corridor like a prayer. Marcus froze. He recognized the song. His own mother had sung it to him when he was young, decades ago, in a house that no longer existed. Camilla's voice was beautiful, pure and clear, despite the pain behind it. She sang with her eyes closed, swaying slightly in her chair, as if the music was the only thing keeping her upright. "Hush now, my darling, don't you cry. Mama's gonna sing you a lullaby. Close your eyes and drift away. I'll be here when you wake at day." Marcus felt something stir inside him. A memory. A feeling he had buried long ago. He watched Camilla sing, and for a moment, he wasn't in a hospital corridor anymore. He was 5 years old again, lying in his mother's arms. Listening to her voice chase away the darkness, Camilla finished the song and opened her eyes. She looked at Marcus, and for the first time that night, there was something other than grief on her face. There was hope. Faint, fragile, but there. "She used to sing that to me," Camilla said quietly. "Every night when I was little, I thought maybe if I sang it to her, she might remember. Even if it's just for a second." Marcus nodded slowly. He didn't trust himself to speak yet. "I'm going to try again," Camilla said, standing up. Her legs were unsteady, but she steadied herself against the wall. "I'm going to go in there and sing to her. Maybe it will reach her. Maybe she'll know it's me." She started toward the door, but Marcus stood up quickly. "Wait," he said. Camilla turned to look at him. There was determination in her eyes now, mixed with desperation. "What if it doesn't work?" Marcus asked gently. "What if she still doesn't recognize you?" Camilla's expression faltered for just a moment. Then she straightened her shoulders. "Then at least she'll hear something beautiful before the end," she said. "At least she won't be alone." Marcus felt his throat tighten. This young woman, broken and exhausted, still had the strength to offer love when she had nothing left to give. It was the kind of courage he rarely saw, even in a place like this. "You're a good daughter," Marcus said quietly. Camilla's eyes filled with tears again, but she smiled. It was a sad, trembling smile, but it was real.
"Thank you,"
she whispered. She turned and walked toward the door of room 304. Her hand rested on the handle for a moment, and Marcus could see her gathering her strength. Then she pushed the door open and stepped inside. The door closed softly behind her. Marcus stood alone in the corridor, listening. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, faintly, he heard it. Camilla's voice singing again. The lullaby carried through the walls, soft and haunting, filling the empty space with something that felt almost sacred. Marcus closed his eyes and listened. He thought about his own mother, gone now for 15 years. He thought about all the times he had wanted to tell her he loved her, but hadn't. All the moments he had let slip away, because he thought there would be more. There was never more time. The singing continued, and Marcus felt something inside him shift. He had spent 20 years in this hospital, watching people say goodbye. He had become numb to it, building walls around his heart to survive the sadness. But this was different. This was breaking through. He walked closer to the door, not to interrupt, just to be near, to bear witness. He pressed his hand against the wall and bowed his head. Inside the room, Camilla sat beside her mother's bed, holding her hand. Her mother's eyes were closed, her breathing shallow and labored. The machines beeped steadily, marking time that was running out. Camilla sang through her tears. She sang every verse she could remember, and when she forgot the words, she hummed. She stroked her mother's hair gently, the way her mother used to stroke hers. "Please, Mama," Camilla whispered between verses. "Please remember me. Please don't go without knowing how much I love you." Her mother's face remained still, peaceful but distant, unreachable. Camilla's voice began to break, but she kept singing. She sang because it was all she had left. She sang because stopping would mean accepting the end was near. And then, something happened. Her mother's fingers twitched. It was so slight that Camilla almost missed it, but she felt it. A tiny movement against her palm. Her heart jumped. "Mama," Camilla whispered, leaning closer. Her mother's eyelids fluttered. Slowly, painfully, they opened. Camilla held her breath. Their eyes met. For a long, agonizing moment, there was nothing. Just empty recognition. The look of someone staring at a stranger. But then, something changed in her mother's gaze. Something sparked. Something awakened. Her mother's lips moved, forming a word so quiet that Camilla had to lean even closer to hear it. Camilla, the sound of her name, spoken in her mother's weak, trembling voice, shattered something inside Camilla. She collapsed onto the bed, sobbing uncontrollably, clutching her mother's hand like a lifeline. "Yes, Mama. Yes, it's me. I'm here. I'm right here." Outside in the corridor, Marcus heard the crying. But it wasn't the sound of grief anymore. It was the sound of something else entirely. It was the sound of relief, of recognition, of love finding its way back. Marcus stood frozen in the hallway, his hands still pressed against the wall. He could hear Camilla's voice through the door, broken but joyful, telling her mother over and over that she was there, that she would always be there. He felt tears on his own cheeks. He wiped them away quickly, looking around to make sure no one had seen. But the corridor was still empty. Just him and the moment happening behind that closed door. For several minutes, Jack stayed there listening to the muffled sounds of reunion. Then, slowly, the door opened. Camilla stepped out. Her face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. Truly smiling. The grief was still there, visible in her eyes. But something else had joined it now. Peace. She saw Marcus standing there and walked toward him. "She knows me," Camilla said, her voice full of wonder. "She looked at me and she knew me. She said my name." Marcus smiled, his own emotions barely held in check. "That's good. That's really good." "She's weak," Camilla continued, "but she's talking. A little bit. She told me she loves me. She told me not to be sad." Camilla laughed through her tears. "Even now, she's trying to take care of me." Marcus nodded, understanding completely. Mothers never stopped being mothers, even at the very end. "How much time do you think she has?" Camilla asked quietly. The question hung heavy in the air. Marcus had learned over the years not to make predictions. Death followed no schedule. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But she's here now. She knows you're here. That's what matters." Camilla nodded, accepting the answer. She looked back at the door, then at Marcus. "Thank you for sitting with me earlier," she said. "I felt so alone, and you made it better." "I didn't do anything," Marcus said. "You did," Camilla insisted. "You stayed. That was everything." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. He had spent so many years keeping his distance from the pain in this hospital, convincing himself that staying detached was the only way to survive. But this young woman, in her darkest hour, was showing him something he had forgotten. Connection mattered. Presence mattered. Being human mattered. "Can I ask you something?" Camilla said suddenly. "Of course. That song I sang. You had a reaction to it. I saw your face. Did it mean something to you?" Marcus hesitated. He didn't usually talk about his personal life, but something about this night felt different. Something about Camilla made him want to be honest. "My mother used to sing it to me," he said quietly. "A long time ago. Is she still?" "No, she passed away 15 years ago. Cancer." Camilla's expression softened. "Were you with her? At the end?" Marcus looked down at his hands. This was the question he had been avoiding for 15 years. The guilt he carried like a stone in his pocket. "No," he admitted. "I wasn't." The confession hung between them. Camilla didn't say anything, but Marcus felt compelled to explain. "I was working," he continued. "She was in a hospice facility across town. They called me and told me to come, that it was time. But I was in the middle of a shift here, and there was an emergency with a patient. I thought I had time. I thought I could finish and then go to her." His voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat. "By the time I got there, she was gone. She died alone. And I've carried that with me every single day since." Camilla reached out and gently touched his arm. The gesture was simple, but it held a world of understanding. "You were helping someone else," she said softly. "That's what you do. That's who you are. Your mother would have understood that. maybe Marcus said. But I never got to say goodbye. I never got to tell her I loved her one last time. I never got to be there when she needed me most. You're here now, Camilla said. You were here for me tonight? Maybe that's your way of making peace with it. By being present for others in the moments you couldn't be there for her? Marcus looked at her. This young woman who had every reason to be consumed by her own pain, yet somehow still had the capacity to offer comfort to a stranger. It was humbling. Thank you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Camilla smiled. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Two people trying to hold on to what we love for as long as we can. Yeah, Marcus agreed. I guess we are. A nurse appeared at the end of the corridor, walking toward them with a clipboard. She looked tired, her scrubs wrinkled from a long shift. Miss Reynolds? She said, addressing Camilla. Your mother is asking for you again. Camilla's face lit up. She is. Yes, she's more alert than she's been in days. I don't know how long it will last, but you should go to her now. Camilla nodded quickly and started toward the door, but she paused and turned back to Marcus. Will you still be here? She asked. Later, when I come back out. Marcus nodded. I'll be here. Camilla smiled, grateful, and disappeared into room 304. The nurse glanced at Marcus. You okay, Marcus? You look like you've seen a ghost. Marcus shook his head slowly. Not a ghost. Just a reminder. A reminder of what? Of why I do this job. The nurse gave him a curious look but didn't press further. She walked away, leaving Marcus alone in the corridor once again. He sat down in the same chair he had occupied earlier, settling in for however long Camilla would need. He wasn't going anywhere. Not this time. Inside room 304, Camilla sat close to her mother, holding both of her hands now. Her mother's eyes were open, clearer than they had been in weeks. You came back, her mother whispered. I never left, Mama. I've been here the whole time. Her mother smiled weakly. You always were stubborn, just like me. Camilla laughed, the sound mixing with tears. I learned from the best. There's something I need to tell you, her mother said, her voice strained but determined. Something important. Camilla leaned in closer, not wanting to miss a single word. What her mother said next would change everything. Asterisk. Asterisk. Her mother's grip tightened slightly on Camilla's hands. The effort was visible, each breath a struggle, but her eyes were focused and intent. I need you to know, her mother began, that every sacrifice I made was worth it. Every sleepless night, every extra shift, every moment I went without so you could have more. It was all worth it. Mama, don't, Camilla started. But her mother shook her head weakly. Let me finish, she whispered. I don't have much time, and I need you to hear this. Camilla nodded, tears streaming freely down her face. You think I gave up everything for you? Her mother continued. But you're wrong. You didn't take from me, Camilla. You gave me everything. You gave me purpose. You gave me joy. You gave me a reason to wake up every single morning. Being your mother has been the greatest gift of my life. Camilla's chest heaved with sobs. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Promise me something, her mother said, her voice growing weaker. Promise me you won't carry guilt. Don't spend your life wishing you'd done more or said more. You've been everything I ever needed. Everything I ever dreamed you would be. Promise, Camilla managed to say. I promise, Mama. Her mother smiled, and for just a moment, she looked like herself again. Not the sick, fading woman in the hospital bed, but the strong, loving mother who had raised Camilla with unwavering devotion. One more thing, her mother whispered. That lullaby you sang. I heard it. Even when I couldn't speak, even when I couldn't show it, I heard you, and it brought me back. Your voice brought me back. Camilla pressed her mother's hands to her lips, kissing them over and over. I love you so much. So much. I know, sweetheart. I've always known. They sat together in silence for a while, just holding hands, being present in the moment. The machines continued their steady rhythm, marking time that both of them knew was running out. Finally, her mother's eyes began to close. I'm tired now, she said softly. Then rest, Mama. I'll be right here when you wake up. I know you will, her mother said. You always have been. Her breathing slowed, becoming deep and even. She drifted into sleep, her face peaceful. Camilla stayed beside her, watching the rise and fall of her chest, memorizing every detail of her mother's face. She didn't know if this would be the last time she would see her mother awake, but she was grateful for the moment they had shared. After about an hour, Camilla quietly stood and stepped out into the corridor. Marcus was still there, exactly where he said he would be. He looked up when he heard the door open. "How is she?" he asked. "Sleeping," Camilla said. She sat down beside him, exhausted, but she was awake, really awake.
We talked.
She told me. Camilla's voice broke. She told me everything I needed to hear. Marcus nodded, understanding the weight of those final conversations. The importance of words spoken when time was short. "I'm glad you got that," he said sincerely. "Me too." Camilla wiped her eyes. "What time is it?" Marcus checked his watch. "Almost 5 in the morning? The sun will be up soon." "I should call my brother," Camilla said suddenly. "He lives across the country. He couldn't get here in time, but I should tell him. Tell him that Mom was lucid, that she was herself again, even if just for a little while." "It's a good idea," Marcus agreed. Camilla pulled out her phone and walked a little ways down the corridor to make the call. Marcus could hear her voice, low and emotional, explaining the night's events to someone on the other end. While she was gone, a doctor approached Marcus. It was Dr. Patel, one of the oncologists who had been treating Camilla's mother. "Marcus," Dr. Patel said, nodding in greeting. "You're still here?" "Yeah." "The patient in 3-4 Mrs. Reynolds? Her vitals are declining. It could be hours or it could be days, but we're getting close to the end." Marcus glanced at the door to room 304. "The daughter knows." "Good," Dr. Patel hesitated, then added, "I heard her singing earlier. Through the door. It was beautiful." It was Marcus agreed. "Oh. I've been a doctor for 23 years, Dr. Patel said quietly. "I've seen a lot of death, too much death. And I've learned that it's not always the medicine that matters most in these final moments. It's the love, the presence, the human connection." Marcus looked at him. "Yeah, I'm learning that too." Dr. Patel gave him a small, knowing smile and walked away. Camilla returned a few minutes later, her eyes red from crying again. "My brother wanted me to tell Mom he loves her. He's trying to get a flight, but it might not be in time."
"Ow, you can tell her for him," Marcus said. "I will."
Camilla sat down, leaning her head back against the wall. "I don't know how much longer I can do this. The waiting, the not knowing." "You're stronger than you think," Marcus said. "I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm breaking into 1,000 pieces." "That's what strength looks like sometimes," Marcus told her. "Staying when every part of you wants to run. Being present, even when it hurts. That's courage." Camilla looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "Did anyone tell you that? When your mother was dying?" Marcus shook his head. "No. I wish they had." "Then I'm glad I could be here for you too," Camilla said softly. "Even if you're the one who's supposed to be helping me." They fell into a comfortable silence. Two souls bound together by shared grief and understanding. The hospital began to wake up around them. Nurses changed shifts. Doctors made their rounds. Visitors started arriving as the sun cast its first light through the windows. But in that corridor outside, room 304, time seemed to move differently, slower, more deliberate. Camilla dozed off in her chair, exhausted from 3 days without sleep. Marcus stayed awake, keeping watch. He had done this before, sat vigil, while families waited for the inevitable. But it felt different this time. This time he wasn't just a guard doing his job. He was a fellow human being, sharing in the weight of life's most difficult moments. Around 7 in the morning, one of the nurses approached quickly, her expression urgent.
"Yes."
She said quietly, trying not to wake Camilla. "Mrs. Reynolds is showing signs. It's happening." Marcus felt his heart sink. He gently touched Camilla's shoulder. "Camilla," he said softly. "Camilla, wake up." She opened her eyes, confused for a moment. Then reality crashed back in, and she stood up immediately. Is it? Marcus nodded, without another word. Camilla rushed to the door and disappeared inside. What happened in the next few minutes would stay with Marcus for the rest of his life. Asterisk, asterisk, inside room 304. Camilla rushed to her mother's bedside. The machines were beeping differently now, irregular and alarming. Her mother's breathing was shallow, each breath a visible struggle. "Mama, I'm here," Camilla said, taking her mother's hand. "I'm right here." Her mother's eyes opened slowly, finding Camilla's face. There was no confusion this time. Only clarity. Only love. "My beautiful girl," her mother whispered, so quietly that Camilla had to lean in close to hear. "Don't leave me," Camilla pleaded, even though she knew it was selfish. Even though she knew there was no stopping what was coming. "I won't," her mother said. "I'll always be with you, always." A nurse entered quietly, checking the monitors, but she stayed back, giving them space. "Sing for me?" her mother asked. One last time. Camilla's throat tightened. She didn't know if she could, but she looked into her mother's eyes and found the strength. She began to sing the lullaby. Her voice trembling but clear. The same song she had sung hours ago. The same song her mother had sung to her as a child. "Hush now, my darling. Don't you cry. Mama's gonna sing you a lullaby." Her mother smiled, tears sliding down her weathered cheeks. "Close your eyes and drift away. I'll be here when you wake at day." Camilla's voice broke on the last line, but she kept singing. She sang through tears, through heartbreak, through the unbearable pain of watching the person she loved most slip away. Her mother's breathing slowed. The beeping of the machines grew further apart. "I love you, Mama. I love you so much. I love you too, my sweet Camilla. Thank you. Thank you for being mine." Those were her last words. Her mother's eyes closed gently, as if she was simply falling asleep. Her chest rose one more time, then fell, and didn't rise again. The machine gave a long, steady tone. The nurse moved forward to check, but Camilla already knew. She was gone. Camilla collapsed onto her mother's chest, her body shaking with sobs. The nurse placed a gentle hand on her shoulder but said nothing. There were no words for this moment. Outside in the corridor, Marcus heard the sound. The flatline tone. He had heard it countless times in his 20 years here, but it never got easier. Especially not now. He stood up from his chair and walked to the door. Through the small window, he could see Camilla draped over her mother's body, crying. The nurse was standing nearby, giving her time. Marcus felt tears streaming down his own face. He didn't try to stop them this time. Several minutes passed. Finally, the door opened and Camilla stepped out. Her face was pale, her eyes empty. She looked like someone who had just had half of themselves torn away. She saw Marcus and walked straight to him. Without a word, she collapsed into his arms, and he held her while she cried. He didn't say anything. He just held her, letting her grieve, letting her break apart in a space where she didn't have to be strong. "She's gone," Camilla sobbed into his shoulder. "She's really gone." "I know," Marcus said softly, his own voice thick with emotion. "I'm so sorry." They stood there in the hallway, two people connected by loss, by understanding, by the shared experience of loving someone so much that losing them felt like losing yourself. When Camilla finally pulled back, she looked up at Marcus with red, swollen eyes. "Thank you," she said, "for staying with me, for being here. I don't think I could have survived this night without you." "You would have," Marcus said. "You're stronger than you know." "Maybe, but I'm glad I didn't have to find out." Camilla wiped her eyes. "What you said about your mother? About not being there when she passed. I hope you know that doesn't define you. What defines you is what you did tonight. Being here for a stranger when she needed someone most." Marcus felt something shift inside him. A weight he had carried for 15 years suddenly felt lighter. Not gone, but more bearable. "Your mother would be proud of who you are," Camilla continued. "Just like my mother was proud of me. We carry them with us in everything we do. That's how they stay alive." Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. A doctor approached, the same Dr. Patel from earlier. He spoke quietly with Camilla about next steps, paperwork, arrangements. Camilla handled it all with a composure that surprised Marcus, but he understood. Sometimes shock gave you strength you didn't know you had. When the doctor left, Camilla turned back to Marcus one final time.
Guys, I should go back in, she said.
Sit with her a little longer before they take her away, of course, Marcus said. Will you still be here? Camilla asked. When I come out again? I'll be here as long as you need me, Marcus promised. Camilla gave him a small, sad smile. You're a good man, Marcus. The kind of person the world needs more of. She went back into the room, and Marcus returned to his chair. He sat down and closed his eyes, thinking about everything that had happened that night. He thought about his mother, about all the regrets he had carried, about the guilt that had eaten away at him for so long, and he thought about Camilla's words, about how the people we love stay with us in everything we do. Asterisk, asterisk, maybe she was right. Maybe the way to honor his mother wasn't to drown in guilt, but to be present for others in the way he wished he had been present for her. Maybe that's what his mother would have wanted. An hour later, Camilla emerged from the room for the last time. She looked exhausted but calmer, resigned to what had happened, even if she wasn't at peace with it yet. I called my brother, she said. He's devastated, but he's grateful I was there, that she wasn't alone. Neither were you, Marcus reminded her gently. Camilla nodded. No, I wasn't, and that made all the difference. She hesitated, then asked, Can I give you my number? I know that might seem strange, but I'd like to stay in touch. If you're open to it? Marcus was surprised, but he found himself nodding. I'd like that. They exchanged numbers, and Camilla gathered her things from the waiting area. Before she left, she turned to Marcus one last time. My mother used to tell me that angels appear in the most unexpected places, she said. I never understood what she meant until tonight. You were my angel, Marcus. In the darkest moment of my life, you were there, and I'll never forget that. Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears again. Take care of yourself, Camilla. You too. She walked away down the corridor, her footsteps echoing in the early morning quiet. Marcus watched her go, feeling something profound settle over him. This night had changed him, broken something open inside him that he had kept locked away for too long, and as the sun rose fully over the hospital, casting light through the windows, Marcus made himself a promise. He would never take moments for granted again. He would be present. He would show up. He would let himself feel, even when it hurt, because that's what it meant to be human. That's what it meant to truly live. Asterisk, asterisk. 3 months passed. The hospital returned to its normal rhythm. Night shifts came and went. Patients arrived and departed. Life and death continued their eternal dance in the corridors of St. Catherine's. But Marcus was different now. He still worked the night shift. He still walked the same hallways, sat in the same places, performed the same duties, but something fundamental had changed inside him. He talked to people now, really talked to them. When he saw someone sitting alone in a corridor, grief-stricken and afraid, he didn't just nod and walk past. He stopped. He sat with them. He listened. He had learned something that night with Camilla. He had learned that presence was the greatest gift you could give someone. That showing up, even when you had nothing to offer but yourself, could make all the difference. His coworkers noticed the change. They asked him what had happened, why he seemed different. Marcus never told them the full story. Some things were too sacred to share casually, but he thought about Camilla often, about her courage, about her mother, about the lullaby that had brought them both back to what mattered most. He kept his phone nearby. Sometimes he would look at Camilla's contact information, wondering if he should reach out, but he never did. He figured she needed space to grieve, to heal, to rebuild her life without her mother. Then one evening in late autumn, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hi, Marcus. It's Camilla. I hope you remember me. I was wondering if you might want to meet for coffee sometime. I have something I'd like to tell you. Marcus stared at the message for a long moment. Then he smiled and typed back. I remember you, and I'd love to. They arranged to meet at a small cafe near the hospital the following Saturday afternoon. When Marcus arrived, Camilla was already there, sitting by the window, with 2 cups of coffee in front of her. She looked different, healthier. There was color in her cheeks and light in her eyes. The deep sadness was still there, visible in the way she carried herself, but it no longer consumed her. "Marcus," she said, standing to greet him with a warm hug. "It's so good to see you." "You too," Marcus said, sitting down across from her. "How have you been?" Camilla sighed, a complicated expression crossing her face. "It's been hard. Really hard. There are days when I can barely get out of bed, days when everything reminds me of her and I fall apart, but there are also good days now. Days when I can think about her and smile instead of just cry." "That's good," Marcus said. "That's healing, yeah." Camilla wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "I've been going to therapy, talking about everything. About her, about my grief, about that night at the hospital. And my therapist said something that made me realize I needed to see you again." "What did they say?" "They said that sometimes we meet people at exactly the moment we're supposed to. That there are no coincidences in life, only connections we're meant to make." Camilla looked directly at him. "You were supposed to be there that night, Marcus, and I was supposed to meet you." Marcus felt emotion rising in his chest. "I've thought the same thing." "I wanted to thank you properly," Camilla continued. "That night, you gave me something I didn't know I needed. You gave me companionship in my darkest hour. You reminded me that I wasn't alone. And more than that, you helped me see my mother one last time in a way that brought her peace. Because of our conversation, because you sat with me, I found the courage to sing to her. And that brought her back to me." "You would have done that anyway," Marcus said gently. "Maybe, but having you there made it possible. You held space for my grief, and that gave me strength." Camilla reached into her bag and pulled out a small, wrapped package. "I have something for you." Marcus took it, surprised. He carefully unwrapped it to find a leather-bound journal. On the front cover, embossed in gold, were the words, "Moments that matter." "I want you to write in it," Camilla explained. "Every time you sit with someone the way you sat with me. Every time you show up for a stranger. Every time you make a difference that you think might go unnoticed. I want you to write it down. Because those moments matter, Marcus. They matter more than you know." Marcus ran his fingers over the cover, deeply moved. "Camilla, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just promise me you'll use it. Promise me you'll remember that what you do matters. That you matter." "I promise," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. They talked for over 2 hours, sharing stories about their mothers, about grief, about healing. Camilla told him about the memorial service. About sorting through her mother's belongings. About the hard work of learning to live in a world without the person who had defined so much of her life. Marcus told her about his own journey, about how that night had forced him to confront his guilt about his mother, about how he had started volunteering at a hospice on his days off, sitting with patients who had no family, making sure no one died alone the way his mother had. "She would be so proud of you," Camilla said softly. "I think your mother would be proud of you too," Marcus replied. "The way you're honoring her memory, the way you're healing while still holding on to love, that takes incredible strength." As the afternoon light faded and the cafe began to empty, they both knew it was time to part ways. They stood outside on the sidewalk, the autumn air cool and crisp around them. "Will we do this again?" Camilla asked. "Stay in touch?" "I'd like that very much," Marcus said. "Good, because I've learned something these past few months. I've learned that the people who show up in our darkest moments become part of our story forever. You're a part of mine now, Marcus, and I'm grateful for that." Marcus hugged her, and in that embrace, he felt everything they had shared that night at the hospital. The grief, the hope, the human connection that had saved them both. "Thank you for finding me again," he said. "Thank you for never really leaving," Camilla replied. They said their goodbyes, promising to text soon to meet again. And as Marcus walked back to his car, he felt lighter than he had in 15 years that night. When he got home, Marcus opened the journal Camilla had given him. On the first page, he wrote, "Tonight I learned that the smallest act of kindness can ripple out in ways we'll never fully understand. I learned that showing up matters, that being present matters, that loving deeply, even when it hurts, is what makes us human. I met a young woman named Camilla who taught me how to forgive myself, who showed me that it's never too late to honor the people we've lost by being there for the people who are still here. This is for you. Mom, every moment I show up from now on is for you. Every person I sit with, every hand I hold, every vigil I keep, it's all for you. I'm sorry I wasn't there at the end, but I promise to be there for everyone else I can. That's how I'll keep your memory alive. That's how I'll make sure your love continues to matter. Marcus closed the journal and held it to his chest. Outside his window, the city lights twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, people were grieving. Somewhere, people were alone. Somewhere, someone needed what he and Camilla had given each other. And Marcus knew, the absolute certainty that he would be there. Not because it was his job. Not because he had to. But because he had learned the most important lesson of all. We save each other in our darkest moments. In our deepest pain. In our most desperate hours. We reach across the emptiness and find each other. And that connection, that simple act of showing up and saying you're not alone, is what makes life worth living. It's what makes us human. It's what makes love eternal, and it's what ensures that the people we've lost live on through every act of kindness we show to others. Marcus picked up his phone and sent a text to Camilla. Thank you for tonight. You've given me more than you know. Let's not wait so long next time. Her response came quickly. Agreed. And Marcus, keep showing up. The world needs more people like you. Marcus smiled, set down his phone, and picked up the journal again. There were many blank pages left to fill, many stories left to write, many moments left to matter, and he couldn't wait to live every single one of them. Because that's what Camilla's voice had, carried down the corridor that night. Not just a lullaby, but a reminder. A reminder that love never truly dies. It transforms. It continues. It ripples outward through every life it touches. And in the end, that's all any of us can hope for. To love deeply, to show up fully, and to leave the world a little more connected than we found it, one moment at a time. One person at a time. One act of presence at a time. That was the lesson, and Marcus would carry it with him for the rest of his life.